It's us as a group. What can we achieve together? Look how well we pass this ball. Look how we move it around the court. And everybody loves watching them. You turn on the NBA and watching the ball fling around the court and the ball movement. And you're like, wow, you can't track the thing. And then they're scoring. And together, collectively,
This is Coach to Coach, where we talk junior basketball coaching in a relaxed, practical way. I'm Jace, and these are your fast break chats. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Coach to Coach. I'm very, very pleased to have Grant Exxon along to have a chat with us today about, shockingly, basketball-related things. You know, who would have thought? Thank you for being here, Grant.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks, Jace, for having me.
Excellent. We'll get started with the usual, what I've warmly titled the Fast Five now. Tell us, how long have you been coaching for now?
I have been coaching with sort of intense focus since Archie started playing basketball at under 8s.
Okay.
But prior to that, I work as an educator. I'm a teacher, secondary school teacher, and coaching various sports has come into my role prior to Archie starting to involve himself in basketball. And now Banjo, my youngest, is involved in soccer as well. So I'm doing some soccer coaching this season, which is going to be interesting.
Yes. Hopefully some principles and crossover.
Yes, but outdoor, and there's more of them. And it is trickier.
Yeah, fun times ahead. What teams are you currently coaching with? Well, you obviously, soccer's coming up, but are you coaching basketball teams
I'm
at the
on
moment?
the bench at the moment, Jace.
Okay, that's all right.
Because I had long service leave last year and
Yep.
didn't register as a coach for the summer season because I was in a hotel room in London when I registered.
Brilliant.
Mistake. And so it looks like soccer during the winter season is going to be my next spot as a coach, which is good. That's going to be fun.
But you're not done with the basketball coaching, no?
Absolutely not.
No,
I'm hoping to get back
it's a
in.
hiatus.
Yes.
Excellent. Why do you coach? You sort of covered that off. It's sort of come as a part of your career. But is there something more that it gives you?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the thing that motivates me as an educator is relationships.
Yep.
And so you coach because of relationships, an opportunity to work with young people and see their character to develop, and to help them to pay attention to the things that they may not actually necessarily be aware of that they're doing while they're being involved in a community sports program.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
it's a great opportunity to help them remember some of the things that they're not necessarily paying attention to when they want to bounce a ball or kick a ball.
Yep, excellent. Was there someone that has had an influence on how you coach?
Yeah, I suppose the interesting thing about this is the more and more I've paid attention to sports as I've gotten older, as I've paid more and more attention to the culture around sporting teams rather than individuals. And I will never forget watching Champions League soccer one morning when you used to have to get up you still have to get up bright and early to watch it. And here's Pep Guardiola, who Barcelona have just lost a Champions League semi-final, and he fronts the media and says, well, you don't get to be Barcelona Football Club without knowing how to lose. We can be a great club, but on the way to being a great club, you're going to have to lose. So we know how to lose, and we know how to learn from losing. And I just thought it was such an impactful thing for this sort of coach of a global superstar team to say straight after a match, we know how to lose. And I was like, wow, there has to be some serious work going on behind the scenes for a person to be able to say that in front of a global TV audience. And then, of course, your coaches, when you're a kid, your coaches are so important because they're the venue, they're part of the vehicle by which you are having a really good time playing sports.
Yes.
But we know in community sports, but we know for young people that significant adults who are not their parents, this is teachers, this is people who run sport clubs, all those kind of things are so impactful for young people having someone else to ask when things are perhaps going poorly or when they've got big questions or they've got big decisions to make, or maybe their mates are making big decisions that they're not sure they should be making. And what a privilege to be involved in those kind of spaces. If you can be one of those 5 people for a young person who are not their parents, but you can have an impact in a young person's life, that's a privilege we shouldn't forget.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what happens on Saturday morning when the scoreboard finishes. That's a privilege to be involved in a young person's life if you get it.
It's a
don't take
privilege
it for granted.
regardless of the result.
Absolutely, yeah, regardless of the result.
Yeah, that's amazing. Excellent. Do you have a favourite professional basketball player?
Do you know, as a kid, I was so into the Charlotte Hornets, and they I don't think they were cool, although they had pretty cool jerseys at the time. They did
have very cool jerseys.
Teal was a thing, right?
Yes.
But Muggsy Bogues, he's 5'3".
The little guy.
He's 5'3". And how much character do you have to be a 5'3" NBA basketball player?
Yeah.
I was really connected to Charlotte as a team. Had the jersey, had the cap. Really, really interested around the dual three-peat. The Bulls. When you win 3 in a row twice, what are the inner workings of a team like that?
Yes.
Jordan's commitment to personal excellence, but how do you put Dennis Rodman alongside Jordan?
Yeah.
And then what the heck is Luke Longley doing there? Do you know what I mean? He's Australian, and I suppose
fish out of water.
Yeah, like so many young people at the time, you're looking at it. Oh, hang on, he's one of us, and he's made it there. So it's possible. You can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Muggsy was a big favourite for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. So obviously, I have known this about you for many years. Having an influence on young people is something that is run deeply passionate for you. You coached my son. It was a good few years ago now. It feels like it's getting on.
It must have been under 10s, I think.
Yeah. And had an incredibly positive influence on him back then. So I'm grateful for those times. But I think one of the things that has stood out and we've discussed in preparation for today is the significant importance you place on building character into players and taking that responsibility quite seriously. As a mentor, and let's dive into, I guess, what the mechanics of that are for you and why they matter.
I think
you've sort of touched on it somewhat. So
I think it's so important to think about what it is we're really doing when we turn up for training during the week sometime, and when we turn up for a game on a Friday night or a Saturday. It's probably not a popular thing to say, but there is a very good chance that you are not coaching the next Steph Curry. I think there's a significant chance that you are not coaching the next NBA or global superstar, and that most of us probably won't get a chance to work with a student with a player. I nearly said student. See, that's professional hazard.
Yep.
To work with a player who's going to make it all the way. Now we might, right? But for most of us who turn up for training and on games, we're coaching a person who's engaged in a game, and you play games for fun, and you play them to be social and to learn things about sport and about yourself and about other people.
Yes.
And so it's an arena in which you learn some really pro-social behaviours, and that is, how do we get along with other people? How should we behave if we turn up for a grading game? And Archie's team did this the other day, and I was coaching them in their grading because the coach was away. And they turned up for a grading game and they had a pretty good understanding that they were probably going to have a reasonably confident win, and they did. And I said to them, well, listen, boys, under no circumstances is anyone allowed to score from outside the key until I call a timeout. And so they had 25 points on the board before anyone was allowed to shoot a jump shot, because I was like, there's this thing here that says, well, this is an easy win, so I'm going to start shooting threes. And there's a level of disrespect that can be shown to another team who have showed up like you on a Saturday morning to have a good time and play a game. And so we just built in a number of stops into that game that goes, well, hang on, we can find ways to focus on our game, and we can focus on getting close to the basket, finding an open layup and scoring that way. And did we win really confidently and comfortably? We did. But I don't think at any point anyone in that under-13s team disrespected an opponent. And they found ways to work together on a team, as a team, that still develop their their basketball,
Yeah.
but at no point showed sort of disrespect or contempt to the opposition who had been beaten by 50 points the week before, and who we beat by I think 64.
Yeah.
And so that's fair play to those kids who are showing up week on week and haven't yet been graded correctly. But that's on us, I think. That's on the adults.
Well, that's what I was sort of
Yeah.
wanting to... What I wanted to chime in with was that the simple fact of the matter is you, as the coach, needed to have these young players understand those parameters and guide them for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's not a snowflake's chance that they're going to rock up on the court and just adhere to that kind of ruling.
No, I don't think they would have chosen to play the game that way.
No. So our role's really important.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And at training, on your weeknight training, I think you're there to learn basketball skills. You're there to learn fun. But I'm sure many people who will be listening to this are coaching, and they have seen the impact of, what happens when I let the guys play 2-on-2, or when I let them play 1-on-1, or we play king of the court and it's one versus another on my court during the training time. Then we've got this sort of almost antagonistic one going against the other to try and beat them. And pretty quickly the pecking order can be sorted out in a team. And of course there's going to be varying levels of skills in
Always.
a team. But we don't want 6 kids to be looking at one kid and going, well, you're the best, so the ball has to come to you more than anyone else. I think that develops a really lopsided team, and I've seen it go really sideways for teams who have obviously almost been taught, I think, give the ball to that player, and then when the opposition team stops that from happening, when you double team someone or you figure out a way to cut off those passes that are all looking for the one player, then that kid ends up in tears at the end of the game. There's nothing left. And that kid ends up in tears at the end of the game because they've developed this really lopsided team because you're our best player. But in your training sessions, if you figure out, well, how many baskets can this group of 7 players score in 45 seconds? And then you pull that together at the end of that session and you go, do you know what? We passed the ball 9 times and scored 25 baskets in 45 seconds. We just worked it and worked it and worked it. I said, let's imagine if we do this on Saturday, the other team can't figure out where the ball's going next because we are passing it so much. We as a team.
Yes.
So it's not you versus them. It's not one teammate on a Tuesday night at training, one teammate versus the other, or two teammates versus the other. It's us as a group. What can we achieve together? Look how well we pass this ball. Look how we move it around the court. And everybody loves watching them. You turn on the NBA and watching the ball fling around the court and the ball movement. And you're like, wow, you can't track the thing. And then they're scoring. And together, collectively, that team culture is building a thing.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I've thought really successful team culture, celebratory of each other, pats on the back, high fives. So there was another episode, I think Dee was talking about the fact that you come off that court, everyone gets a high five. Yeah. If you're the guy who scores, you get a pat on the back. If you threw the assist, you get the high five as well. Like, we're celebrating each other.
High fives for everyone.
High fives for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you talk about that passing, because I've shared a video on socials the other day, and it was literally 14 passes. It was transition, but it was transition and then it was movement.
Yeah.
14 passes before an easy bucket.
Yeah.
Like, it is a beautiful way to play basketball.
It's a wonderful way to play basketball.
Yeah.
And for kids to celebrate, to go, look how fast we move the ball. We did it. We did 15 passes in 20 seconds. Let's go faster. Can we go again? Can we beat our own time as a unit rather than beat 2 other players of our team? It's a radically different way to run your training.
Yes.
And then you're there learning those pro-social behaviours as well in a team.
Well, not to mention it builds a team culture in its own right, because everybody can feel like they played a part in that bucket.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on there. There's support for each other, encouragement for each other. We are teammates. I'm not 7th in the team. I'm not 1st in the team. We are a unit, and we're building something together. And then those pro-social behaviours, kindness. Like, how can we be kind to every player on the team? And so, if someone throws an airball, I'm not letting my team players airball to each other, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, guys, come on now. Like, get the next one? How do we say really positive things when something goes wrong?
Yes.
So that everyone's prepared to put the next shot up without getting slammed by their own teammates.
Yeah.
But we also know that young people are watching heaps of sport on TV, and you're seeing one team or players from one team demean players from the other team pretty routinely. And you have to fight against that.
Yeah.
You have to be, the person who's showing them how to build a different culture and a different identity as a team. And you choose your sport. I think you're seeing so many examples of when teams build really positive culture, they often have incredible success that follows.
Yeah.
And then the wheels fall off and they're like, oh, they've lost it. Did they get too old? I often think they didn't get too old. You usually see something wobble, kind of in the fabric, the stuff that's behind the scenes. Someone's lost someone's trust, or someone's stuffed up on a personal level. Like I said, choose your sport, and the wheels fall off, and the thing comes apart, and they go from winning multiple premierships to not making it back to the finals.
Yeah.
And you're like, what really changed behind closed doors? What really went on there? I'm really fascinated by that. So I'm really interested in team cultures and character and what's going on, and how do you win trust, and how do you support each other, and how does that generate into success? Yeah,
absolutely. So is there anything that you can think of practically to help another coach that is struggling to have a culture work for the team, a strong culture for the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it obviously starts at training. I think it starts training day one. Do you know what I mean? And success criteria for any first training session is like, how do we know every single person's name? How do we make sure that we're prepared to congratulate that person, pat them on the back, give them a high five, all those kind of things in a way that's meaningful. And then what's okay in this team and what's not okay. And so D
did this. He covered off some of the fundamentals that non-negotiables.
Yeah. I think that's really important.
I think what I'm circling around to, though, sorry to sort of swerve left a little, is that I have heard of recently last year, a coach that was having some challenge with getting his team to come together because of influences outside of the team.
I think, okay.
Sort of home life stuff, or just sort of conflicts. Is there, I suppose it's just going to come back to the fundamentals, isn't it? The support for each other and just maintaining the same, a consistent message.
Yeah, I think here's the really tricky thing about signing up to be a coach, I think, in the modern age, is that you're signing up to be a mentor.
Yeah.
And you're going to be one of those 5, maybe 6 people in a young person's life who is not a parent, who gets influence. And what a precious thing to have. Don't hold it lightly.
Absolutely.
But the reality of that is also that you're probably going to have to do some influence in parents as well. And lead some communications around, well, here's what I'm on about here, and this is what success is going to look like for this team. Here's what I will be coaching, and what we're looking for. And other coaches have definitely spoken in this podcast about those sort of shared agreements, and that sort of, here's what's driving this team this season. And if you don't like it, you don't have to come back next season and work with me. You can go and work with another coach.
Correct.
That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm working from the sort of functional understanding that we're here to play a game and have fun at whatever level. It is still a game, and it is mostly about fun, but you are progressing through up into, you've got rep coaches who are, chasing really positive records and all that kind of stuff. But it is still something we do for fun. And I've seen, many students at year 11 and year 12, where I've done the bulk of my teaching, come into my office as a teacher and go, gee, my parents won't let up about sport. And I'm actually sort of getting ready to stop playing because it's not fun anymore. Yeah. There's no joy. And that even with basketball, and basketball has that thing where it runs so many weeks of the year. There's always a season of basketball going. But 17, 18-year-old kids are going, parents want me to keep playing because it gives me something to do on a Friday night, and it gives me something to be doing on a Sunday morning as well, which sort of puts a little question mark over how late I can stay out on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, absolutely.
So often the parents are really invested, not necessarily in success, but in sort of routine
involvement.
And of course, involvement in community sport is a wonderful thing. But involvement in a young person's life who will talk to you and listen to you,
Yeah.
and who feels like you're listening to them,
Yeah.
has got to be more important than, control of a young person's routine on Friday night and Sunday morning, and therefore Saturday night.
Yes.
But yeah, circling all the way back, you sign up to coach, you're signing up to mentor, so you're going to mentor a young person, but you're probably going to have to lead some parents in the identity of a team, even in a club as big as our club, which is huge.
Yeah.
But even in that club, you're going to have to lead some kind of, perhaps some almost parenting conversations about, well, here's what we're doing here, and here's what we're looking to build, and what we're hoping to see this season. Okay, might we win a grand final? We might, but we'll also build some of those social skills, some of that character. We're going to be kind to each other, and even as a coach, I'm going to own it if I stuff up. Like if I think the ref gets the call wrong in the last minute of the game and we lose, and I, chuck my clipboard down, or I lose it a little bit. You better believe on Tuesday night at training, I'm going to have to say, "Hey, I got that wrong.
I messed up.
Yeah, that's on me, and that's not how we do things here." Because absolutely, those young people are watching you, and they're watching you, win or lose. How do you respond when the pressure's on? Sport is 100% microcosm. It's a great metaphor. I'm an English teacher. Sorry, everybody. But we're learning about ourselves when we're engaged in this thing, which is, it's big, it's important. It's important to us as families and as young people and all that kind of stuff. But it's still not the bulk of our life. And I suppose that's what I was saying when I said you're probably not coaching the next Steph Curry. You're probably not. You're probably coaching a person who's going to do this maybe for a big part of their life, but it's not going to be the biggest part of their life. But you can learn really big things about, what do you like when the pressure's on? How do you deal with disappointment? When you're angry because you feel like someone got it wrong, what do you do then? And if you
Emotional
don't
regulation.
behave, if you don't behave in a way that you think showed integrity, what are you going to do to balance the ship in front of 7 young people and go, that's on me, I stuffed it up. We don't talk like that. We don't demean a ref like that. And hopefully you don't have to have those conversations. But when the pressure's on,
they happen.
We're learning about ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, because that was one of the things that I actually covered off briefly with when I was talking to Adrian, was that I found my first season of coaching to be remarkable lessons for who I am as a person and as a coach, and like it was, I learned from my players, I learned from my other the other parents. I guess that's the real trade-off. Well, not trade-off. That's the win, isn't it? Like, the privilege is actually what we get out of coaching as well.
Well, that's the beauty of it, yeah. I mean, sport it's great, it's fun, yeah, but it's also like you're learning a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you see yourself revving hard at 8:45 on a Saturday morning in front of a group of under 8s, then you maybe I hope for anyone who's in that situation that they have a quiet moment to be like, well, hang on a minute, how invested was I at 8:45 on Saturday morning in that under 8s ref call?
That's right.
And what are the reasons, what was really driving that? Because there's a really good chance it wasn't necessarily about the under 8s basketball game, which is, was it 36 minutes on a Saturday morning? I hope that we get the chance to sit and ask ourselves the big and important questions at a certain point when we get it wrong, or even when we get it right. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a really, really incredibly positive message to share with the audience here about the role we play on these young athletes' lives that, regardless of the results, carry through for the rest of their lives, and I couldn't agree more that it is a privilege. So I'm very, very grateful that you've been able to articulate that so beautifully, because I think that there's a message that will resonate for people new to the sport, but also, down the path, it can be a nice, gentle reminder that let's not forget why we're here.
Yeah, I think that's important. And Jace, I love what you're doing with this. It's an absolute privilege to come on board and have a chance to shoot the breeze with you for a little bit.
Excellent.
But it's bigger than, but the podcast is bigger than basketball. But also there's something going on that's a little bit bigger than basketball when we're coaching young people. So
Absolutely.
thanks for the chance. I appreciate it.
It's an honour. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you courtside.
Thank you. See ya.
That's it for today's Fast Break chat on Coach to Coach. Thanks for listening. I'm Jace, and I'll catch you next time.